Age of Apocalypse, Mister Sinister, Days of Future Past, Powers of 10. These are a few of my favorite things in X-Men comics, and in 2023 they'll all converge in the Sins of Sinister, a Krakoa-era crossover promising to deliver on the schemes and mysteries of Mister Sinister since House and Powers of X. As Marvel's promo teases, Mister Sinister's devious machinations yield the darkest Marvel Comics future to date. Immortal X-Men, X-Men Red, and Legion of X will be transformed into Immoral X-Men, Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants, and Nightcrawlers as this overarching saga propels further and further into an unforgiving universe where all things are sinister. I'm incredibly excited for this event, and today on the road to Sins of Sinister, I will answer: how did we get to this point? What should we expect in the Sins of Sinister? What sinister secrets do I predict we'll see revealed? Hey everybody, I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. You are listening to Krakin Krakoa, the roads to Sins of Sinister here on the Comic Book Herald YouTube channel. If you like the content here, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. All that fun stuff helps me out a great deal. Some mild spoilers for the comics that build up to Road to Sins of Sinister may follow. You can find reading orders, all the X-Men comics discussed, as well as many, many more on comicbookherald.com. Tracing the relevant comics to give you the best background for Sins of Sinister is relatively clear, at least as years in the making events go. You have House of X and Powers of 10 as our baseline relaunch sacred text, required reading for anything in X-Men since 2019. Since then, Mister Sinister has primarily starred in the pages of the Zeb-Wells written Hellions, and now in the ongoing Immortal X-Men by writer Kieran Gillen, who will be writing the bookend Sins of Sinister event issues with Immortal X-Men artist Lucas Wernick. The wildcards are the series X-Men Red and Legion of X, as these series writers, Al Ewing and Cy Spurrier, will fill out the triumvirate writing this event, and their ongoing X-Men comics will transform into an Age of Sinister counterpart for the duration. X-Men Red is simply required reading right now if you like good Marvel comics, but I think you'll see as we go through this that both series have been stealthily building up connections to all things Sinister as well. So, what has Sinister been up to lately that sets the stage for Sins of Sinister? Well, in the Gillen-written Immortal X-Men, it's revealed that after Moira X's mutant ability to reset the timeline with knowledge of the previous lives intact is made public to Krakoa's Quiet Council, that ruling body of 12 mutants on which Sinister sits, Mister Sinister starts cloning Moiras, and using their mutant ability to scientifically test out possible futures, resetting the timeline, and uploading that information to his consciousness to get it just right. The implication is all Sinister's experimentation with Moira will build to this reality where Sinister wins and gets all the domination he can ask for. In my reading, Sinister is primarily obsessed with mutants as pure resources for his science, his own immortality, and, well, capes. So in an Age of Sinister, we can expect weaponized mutant mashups custom-made to do his bidding, aka chimeras, centuries-long lifespans in his bid for immortality, and, well, capes. While you might expect the core opposition to Sinister to come from Professor X or the classic X-Men rosters, Gillen's Immortal X-Men has actually situated Mystique and Destiny, primarily through Destiny's precognition, as key figures. If anyone is going to foil Sinister other than himself, it's likely to be Destiny and Mystique. We've already seen Destiny foil a Sinister plot in Immortal X-Men number 1 as he schemes who to place on the Quiet Council, and in Immortal X-Men number 3, Destiny is given a glimpse of possible futures based on Sinister's actions. Given that we've seen Judgment Day come to pass, this past summer's Marvel Universe event, I wonder if that means we're on the track now to the Empire of the Red Diamond, in Age of Sinister, although then it would also suggest we're missing things on Destiny's vision chart here, like a new Krakoa or a Nimrod Extinction event or something called the Broken Sword, which, could still be to come, right? My theory there would be that's about the reveal of Abigail Brand's betrayal of Krakoa, as she is simultaneously playing Krakoa and Orcus against each other, and the dissolution of SWORD as the mutant space program. Either way, Destiny's the only one who has this knowledge, these outcomes which he describes as less future, and is uniquely positioned to prevent Sinister from his narcissistic domination. Looking back for a moment, it's interesting to me to consider the Sinister mysteries that were set up in Powers of 10 number 1. The Sinister line data page details the mutant breeding programs led by Sinister in Moira's ninth life, aka the life where she aligns with Apocalypse, and Apocalypse and her mutant factions are ultimately seemingly undone by the likes of Nimrod and Omega Sentinel. The general idea is that when mutants got desperate enough, the constant evasion, relocation, confrontation cycle made mutant propagation impossible, they endorsed Sinister's breeding pits of Mars. Sinister goes about chimera mutant combinations with more militaristic applications. He's creating warriors to fight the machines a la Nimrod in that timeline. Now, it's essential to note here that there's a lingering mystery as to what happened to mutant leadership in the build to okaying the breeding pits. Hickman describes these lost years as almost the universal death or disappearance of senior leaders preceding the fall of Krakoa and Mars. Many believe they were not accidental, but purposeful. The pretty obvious implication is that it was Sinister who set this up, as his betrayal of mutants is ultimately their undoing. If there's one certainty with Mister Sinister, it's betrayal. The Chimera programs are actually quite successful, with the third generation leading mutants to believe they can win against the man-machine supremacy. But the fourth gen, a batch based on Omega-level powers, is corrupted, destroys 40% of the mutant population, and causes the fall of Krakoa, not to mention collapsing Mars and resolving in a self-singularity, whatever that means. It's interesting here to note that, like Moira, as far as she believes, if Sinister had not betrayed them, Moira thinks they might have won. They might have done it. It's revealed here that after all this, in Sinister's apparent betrayal, he's publicly executed by the man-machine supremacy. The interesting question here, though, is one, why'd he do it? Surely not for something as mundane as an attempted alliance with the man-machines. And two, we really expected to believe Mr. Homoclone 2 was really executed without backups in place? What was the game? Why did he do all this? What did he go on to do? These mysteries remain. There are a few other direct Powers of 10 connections that offer some incredibly exciting moments and revelations. For starters, the teasers tell us that the 3 issues of each miniseries in the Sins of Sinister are tackling 3 separate time periods. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. The powers of Essex will seek to stretch beyond the limits of time and space, playing with the approach that writer Jonathan Hickman played with in Powers of 10. Likewise, there's the promise of the return of the Powers of 10 Chimera Rasputin, which is a long time coming. The biggest connection, though, is the fact that the final issue, Sins of Sinister, is subtitled Dominion, which after Powers is a loaded term. Given this ends with Dominion, it's worth remembering what that means. In Powers of 10, Jonathan Hickman lays out 3 types of societies: planetary, galactic, and universal. The absolute largest of the bunch, to the point that its range is undefinable, is a Dominion. This is all some real galaxy brain sci-fi, but what we know of Dominions is that they are collections of universal societies, or titans, acting in unison. Something godlike, basically outside space and time. Perhaps the closest thing man, machine, or mutant can get to a Marvel cosmic abstract like eternity. It remains the coolest lingering thread that Dominions only fear 2 things: Galactus and the Phoenix. Something else to consider here. Immortal X-Men #1 has a red diamond data page with 13 Immortal Sinister secrets, and now that 8 issues of Immortal X-Men are out in the wild, it's clear each entry aligns with what happens sequentially in the series. For example, in #1, it says, which certain young lady is keeping private company with Mister Sinister. That's a reference to the Moira clones reveal, and in issue 8, some of us have been immortal for a while, is a reference to the fact that the issue is set during Victorian England with Mister Sinister and Destiny and Mystique as Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler. So we can see that bullets 9 and 10 tease likely murder in the Quiet Council chambers, followed by a certain perhaps bald-headed, machine-helmed someone thrown into the pit. Now, there things get really interesting is bullets 11 and 13 plus. Initially, I was convincing myself that these would come after the Sins of Sinister event when Immortal X-Men returned, but the more I think about it, the more likely it seems that these 3 refer to the 3 issues of Immoral X-Men during the Sins of Sinister. Let's look at what they say and how that might work. Number 11 just says, oh no, Sinister has achieved his every desire and he's still not satisfied. This is classic villain 101. For example, see Emperor Doom, or basically every Thanos story ever. Number 12 reads, help, just help me. It stretches on, endless and cold. Infinity balloons, and a scream is too big for my head. This is a hell of my own making. Hell is other people. Hell is also me. To me, this sounds like Sinister might achieve ascension as part of a Dominion and finds that he hates it. You know, my original theory here was, oh, he's going to get thrown in the pit, right? Something weird where it stretches on forever into infinity. But now, it sounds like he made a Dominion. 13 plus just says, everything is fine. Honestly, I don't know. But we aren't staying in the age of Sinister forever, so of course, at some point, things are going to come back to normal. What else should we expect from Sins of Sinister? Clones, my dear. Loads of clones. Somebody cue up Robin's Dancing on My Clone, and let's proceed. Not just any clones, though. Over the past year, we've had the developing revelation that the red diamond on Sinister's forehead is part of a suit, a la from a deck of cards, and the Orcus leader, Dr. Stasis, was revealed in the pages of Jerry Duggan-written X-Men as a Sinister of Clubs behind the mask. And then, in Immortal X-Men number 8, we see that nearly 100 years ago, Destiny uncovered 4 broken and emptied clone tanks in the home of the original Nathaniel Essex, each with a suit of cards labeled above, although all in black, unlike Sinister's red. So if we take it to mean there are 4 suits, and 2 colors of each suit, there are 8 core Sinisters out in the wild. And given Sinister's obsession with cloning, well, it suits the character. Now, I can pretty reliably get us to 4 suspects, at least, that are going to be major players. We have our familiar mutant Sinister, who we've been following on Krakoa since House and Powers. As mentioned, there's Dr. Stasis, with Orcus. And then I believe there's one from Al Ewing's X-Men Red, and one from Cy Spurrier's Legion of X. Spurrier's is the more transparent. The new character Mother Righteous shows up mysteriously in Legion of X, offering all sorts of hopes and dreams and schemes to players like Legion and Nightcrawler and Banshee. Even more telling, Mother Righteous makes a final page appearance at the end of the Sebastian Shaw-focused issue of Immortal X-Men. Showing up in the book driven by sinister schemes, that's not an accident. I'm completely ashamed to admit it never dawned on me until a listener pointed it out to me, but the name Mother Righteous is quite literally an inversion of Mister Sinister. You have to wonder if Cy and crew were wondering if that was way too much of a giveaway. Don't worry, Cy, I'm quite dense. Your secret's nearly safe. Regardless, Mother Righteous is already teased as a player in the Spurrier-written Sins of Sinister Nightcrawlers, so we can lock this one in. It's happening. Over in X-Men Red, there's a mysterious cosmic player working with Abigail Brand, going by the name Orbis Stellaris. Again, I wasn't really making Sinister connections until the most recent issues of X-Men Red showed us that Orbis, this arms dealer, was experimenting on both Cable's techno-organic arm and Emperor Vulcan genetic cloning at the behest of Abigail Brand. Take a healthy obsession with Summers-based cloning and a 2-part name structure, and we definitely have ourselves a budding cosmic Sinister. Other contenders for secret Sinister clones include the man with the peacock tattoo, still a mystery from the pages of the Benjamin Percy written X-Force, basically anyone wearing a helmet, and possibly Kieran Gillen himself. What's fascinating is these clones don't seem to have the same agenda, or necessarily even know about the other's existence. A big part of me suspects that the "oh no" from the issue number 11 tease could also be in response to these clones showing up and making their various plays. After all, the Marvel promo says things go south for Sinister, especially when we discover that he really is his own worst enemy. I think it's going to be interesting too. We have a mutant Sinister, we have a human Sinister. Mother Righteous seems to be some sort of cosmic supernatural Sinister, or not cosmic, this sort of supernatural astral projection living on the astral plane Sinister, and then Orbis Stellaris is a more cosmic space base. You have Sinisters with different sort of power sets and abilities and focuses. To recap, Sins of Sinister is gloriously situated to deliver on so many of the Krakoa era's most interesting threats. What are Sinister's master plans? How will Moira's mutant ability be used to ensure Sinister rule in some alternate reality? What can we learn of Dominions and universal societies? What's been up with Rasputin? And just as intriguingly, what the heck does Krakoa and X-Men comics look like once this is all over? Because in summer or fall 2023, we're getting the fall of X. We're coming back to Krakoa. Okay, the Sins of Sinister won't last forever, but how do we get back and what do things look like? These are interesting and compelling questions. As the world's #1 Age of Apocalypse fan, I'm 100% here for what Marvel promises will be a horrifying timeline that makes the Age of Apocalypse look like the X-Men swimsuit special. We'll see how it all shakes out January 2023 through March, maybe April 2023. And in the meantime, you can find reading guides to this full era of X-Men comics on comicbookherald.com with links in the show notes. Let me know your theories, let me know your thoughts, get them in here in the comments as well, and I'll be happy to check them out and talk comics on the CBH YouTube channel.